As Tara mentioned, my name is Brannon Zahand. I'm a Senior Gaming Accessibility Program Manager at Microsoft. And as Tara mentioned, we are going to share some battle-tested strategies for recruiting accessibility allies. You know, Microsoft has been on a game accessibility journey for a while now. For me, as Tara mentioned, I've been in the game industry a long time, about 17 years. I've been working on accessibility for about 21 years. But really, it was about 2006 at Microsoft when we, I think, took our first real steps into the world of gaming accessibility with a few grassroots activists who are trying to push accessibility up as broadly across the industry, or across this company. And since then, we've been learning a lot of lessons. And we've been taking those lessons and we've been trying to drive them back into our game development products and our processes. And while we're not done, we're not done with that journey. And let's be honest, we're never going to be done with that journey. We're always going to be learning. We're always going to be growing. We do want to share some of those learnings with you all today. And perhaps the most key of those learnings is that it really takes a village to make an inclusive, delightfully accessible game. There was actually a point in Microsoft Game Studio's existence where the prevailing wisdom was that if you had a single accessibility subject matter expert in the studio, that was it. You were good. That would make your product accessible. But we learned very quickly that even for smaller studios, that just doesn't work. It doesn't scale. It takes a team of people across disciplines and throughout the development lifecycle to make a truly great, inclusive gaming experience. So this is where great accessibility allies come in. So my hope today, share some of our strategies on how to build that village of accessibility allies. But before we begin, some logistical taxonomy stuff I think we should get out of the way first. What's an ally? What do I mean when I say ally? Well, I think traditionally we've thought of allies as advocates, people who will go out on top of the highest mountain and say accessibility is important, because it is, and because people need to hear that. But the role of an ally is a lot more than that. An ally is a knowledge source. They're a resource, a subject matter expert, and they provide information to others within their organization about accessibility. An ally also infuses inclusive design and accessibility principles into the game development process wherever they happen to touch it. And finally, an accessibility ally supports others in their efforts to advocate, educate, infuse, and support. So with that definition out of the way, let's talk about two others. I'm going to be talking a lot about inclusive design today, and I actually had someone recently ask me, well, how is inclusive design any different than accessibility? Inclusive design, as is read up here, is the empathetic design of a product so that it can be accessed and used by as many people as possible, regardless of age, gender, and disability. How that differs from accessibility is that inclusive design is the process to make products usable for people. Accessibility is the outcome of that work. Now, in the definition, we use the term empathetic. Empathy is another word I want to talk about really quickly. For those newer to the space, empathy versus sympathy is a really important point that I want you all to grok. I guess I should define what grok means too. Understand. Sorry, that might be a Microsoft term. Empathy is the effort to understand what someone else might be feeling or thinking. At Microsoft, when we're recruiting allies, when we're driving accessibility efforts, when we're promoting inclusive design, we always seek to build empathy. The problem is that sometimes people confuse empathy with sympathy, which is feelings of pity or sorrow for someone else's misfortune. We never try to create sympathy for the gaming and disability community, because frankly, they don't want it and they don't need it. They just want empathy. They want understanding. All right, so taxonomy aside, let's get to the meat of the matter. Rallying the troops. One of my favorite pictures, by the way. You know, at Microsoft, we use a number of different techniques to rally troops and to create a network of accessibility allies. These are some of the techniques we've been using recently, and we'll be covering. I should note, though, that some of these techniques will be more relevant to you depending on the size of your studio, as well as the makeup of your studio, how much leadership support you have for accessibility. But my hope is that you can take and tweak any of these strategies to fit your studio's needs. So let's kick it off. Identifying existing allies. This is perhaps the easiest technique to implement, but you would be amazed how often this is overlooked. It's pretty common that I get people who email me and ask me and say, Brannon, I'm super passionate about accessibility. I don't know where to start. No one else at my company is interested in accessibility. And I'll come back and I'll say, how do you know that? Have you asked? Have you reached out? There may be existing allies you aren't familiar with in your organization, or individuals who are allies and don't even know they're allies yet. You know, at Microsoft, we've seen a large influx of allies coming in from our college hiring program. When they learn about accessibility, when they first kind of realize that it's a thing, kind of like Ian mentioned with our Super Bowl commercial, when people first hear about it, they get excited. And it's amazing how eager these individuals are to help us drive accessibility and become allies. So how do you identify these folks? It's actually really simple. First off, what I found to work really well is I'll generally send to a new studio or a new team an email expressing my personal passion and interest for accessibility. I'll tell them a little bit why I'm passionate about accessibility, the fact that I've worked with the gaming and disability community, the fact that I have an invisible disability. And then I'll invite them to come join me for something informal, coffee, maybe an after-work drink. Set a light agenda, meeting one another, sharing information about roles, talking about accessibility in our products. And during that time, for those people who show up, I collect information, what teams they're on, what skills they have, what roles they're in. And I take notes so that when I leave, I've got that ongoing list of accessibility allies. Now, don't be surprised if at your very first meetup, very few, if anyone, shows up. Actually, my very first accessibility meetup, I sent out this big email. I was super excited. No one showed up. That's okay. It happens. Just make sure you set up a regular cadence for these meetups. Maybe it's once a quarter, maybe it's once a month. And then, every so often, when those times come around, send out another email reminder to the studio. There may be allies who weren't able to join the previous time for whatever reason, or new members may have joined your studio who have a passion for accessibility. But again, use those regular syncs to share strategies, share tips and tricks, and provide updates on accessibility across the team. Now, this is another important point, though, when it comes to sending out those emails and recruiting those existing allies. Avoid reaching out to specific individuals just because they may have a disability. There's this kind of assumption that, hey, if you have a disability, you must really be passionate about inclusive design and accessibility and want to help us and support us. And the fact of the matter is that's just not safe to assume. Just because I have brown hair, if someone started a club that was like, hey, we're starting the Brown Hair Club at Microsoft, I don't know if I'd really want to join, right? This is obviously way more important than that, but the fact of the matter remains that just because somebody can personally relate to the cause of accessibility or inclusive design doesn't mean they actively want to be involved in promoting and supporting it. And that's okay. Instead, make sure you're using broad communications to invite people into your ally network rather than specific targeted invites to people just because they may or may not have a disability. All right, so that was the easiest one. Now to move on to the next one. This one's a little trickier, but it's pretty cool. Inclusive design sprints. Microsoft's been using inclusive design sprints now for a while. Titles such as Gears of War 5, Minecraft, they've participated in these sprints. Typically, it's a 2-day event, usually performed ideally early in product development. We get about 20, 25 people from the studio across a broad set of individuals and roles, and we try to get a few leadership types to join as well. And the purpose of these sprints is to build allyship while learning the basics and the fundamentals of inclusive design and game accessibility from experts in the gaming and disability community itself. We then capture those research insights, and we use them to inform and frame our design ideation for inclusivity. Now, I would love to talk more about this, but this person would kill me because I'd be stealing her thunder. Next talk will be Tara going deep into inclusive design sprints. So, and I'm really upset she's not here to see my really cool slide. I totally rated her Twitter or Instagram or whatever it was. Anyway, I mean, she could kill you in this one. I don't know, anyways. So, anyways, Tara. Ah, there she is. So, yeah, inclusive design sprints, she's got you covered. So let's talk then about our next strategy, which is short boot camps. This year, Microsoft held its 3rd annual Gaming Accessibility Bootcamp. And these events are open to anyone interested in Xbox who's interested in learning more about accessibility and inclusive design. They've grown rapidly over the years. Our first boot camp had about 80 people show up. Our last boot camp had 160 and sold out. We actually had a wait list of about 20, 30 people that wanted to come, and we didn't have enough space. So we're fixing that next time around. So to give you an idea of what boot camp's about, I want to show you a very short video that kind of gives you a taste of what boot camp has to offer. This was from our very first boot camp back in 2017. The slide says the Gaming and Disability team hosted a boot camp to bring developers, designers together to learn more about inclusive design.
It was really important to us to be able to teach people about game accessibility, introduce people to topics maybe they didn't know about, allow people to network and interact with other people who are interested, but also be able to talk to gamers who need these features and live by these features, and it's their life. And we really wanted to connect these groups.
Just because a person sees themselves doesn't mean it's just gonna empower them right away. You need to give them options, but also you wanna make sure games are fun while making them accessible too.
the modifications they were doing to the hardware had in terms of giving the vets opportunity to actually game and how that gaming element, you know, helped them in their recovery. I think that was really moving for me.
Thinking about accessibility or thinking about making gaming for everyone real is all about those little things that can add up. And so the fact that people already had examples of little things that they are doing, like, I just love that. That's just awesome.
Just the fact that once people start seeing accessibility features in games, it breaks down a few misconceptions. People realizing that actually this isn't some scary thing that's going to break our games, it's actually making things better with gamers as well. Gamers seeing that kind of stuff and being less worried about and actually seeing this as a really positive thing. It's inevitable that things are going to get to a really good place. It's just a case of joining the dots in between to get there.
And my apologies to the interpreters and the captioners. I'm not sure why the subtitles didn't pop up on that, so thank you for handling that. So yeah, Bootcamp is a really powerful event. It's been very successful at Microsoft. And again, that first one, the video from that first one, it was something we had never tried before. We decided that we'd take about one day. We'd invite the entire organization to come to a place on campus, and we would bring in members from the gaming and disability community to help build empathy with members of our studios and our platform teams. And wildly successful. It was wildly successful. The feedback we got was incredible, and the number of accessibility allies that one event alone generated was, it was really impactful. It was really amazing. The way we ran the boot camp was kind of like this. We started out with a welcome, yours truly. Hey, welcome, thanks for coming. And then after that, we stopped talking. And we let the gaming and disability community come in, and we let them talk, share their stories, share their passion for gaming, and why inclusive design is so important to them. That was the most impactful part. But it didn't hurt at the end to bring in one of our leaders, one of our executives, to kind of close things out by reaffirming our commitment in Xbox to gaming for everyone. And in the past few years, we've had a number of executives come and close out these boot camps. Phil Spencer, Dave McCarthy, you know, some of those Xbox bigwigs. And it's powerful after you've heard so many stories and the problems and the heartache and the love and the passion for gaming, to then have a leader come and say, that's important, and I commit to making things better for that community. We also, because hey, we're in the games industry and we like to party. We had a little party afterwards. It was fantastic to get members of the gaming and disability community interacting one-on-one with members from our studio. It was really powerful. It was great to see those interactions. So if you do one of these, highly recommend you save a little bit of time for some libations and getting everyone together just to chat in an open, safe environment. Now, our first two boot camps were real short. They were those one-day empathy building ones. But we kept seeing more and more people want to register. We kept getting more feedback, like this is powerful, this is important. And then we started to get feedback that was, okay, you've sold me, I get it, accessibility is important, but now what? How do I go and do the thing? So this last year, we tried something called an extended boot camp. And this was a desire to build a set of talks that were not only empathy building, but also focused on design and technical training. And rather than try to cram it all into a single day, we put it into 2 days. We, at our second talk or day of boot camp, we had 3 different tracks on the second day of different talks, ranging from talks focused on test, to design, to engineering and APIs that were available, tool sets. And we also used it as an opportunity to also talk about things that were tangential or parallel to accessibility, rather. Things like inclusive hiring, game representation, community involvement and discussion, and etiquette. It was really, really powerful. So what I would say to you is that if you decide that your studio can have a boot camp, first, make sure you're bringing in members from the gaming and accessibility community. Reach out to people with a broad set of experiences, both personal and professional. And if you decide to go longer and you want to add technical content, you want to add design content, look to members in this room. You may not have all of the resources you need to host a day of technical design-focused talks, but there are a lot of people here who would be more than willing to come and talk to your teams and help you provide that content. All right, the Champs program. I actually tried to find a picture of Messi because my son is going as Lionel Messi for Halloween, but no luck, so Ronaldo it is. Our Champs program. Our Champs program is probably our most ambitious program when it comes to raising awareness for accessibility and driving allyship and really influencing impact in products and processes at Microsoft. Our Champs program is an ongoing process. It's run by our gaming accessibility team, of which myself and my manager make up. The audience is volunteers and/or those people who have been identified by their management as being appropriate contact points for accessibility matters relating to their areas of ownership. And as mentioned above, the purpose is to build empathy, deliver that design and technical training, but then go a step further and actually provide logistical support, such as supporting accessibility test efforts, tracking features, providing bug reports. We want to make sure through this process that we are driving accessibility in our studios and on our platform teams and on our service teams from end to end while we're cultivating and developing our allies. So how do we do it? What does it look like? What's the structure look like? Well, each team has a champ. So if I'm a game studio, we might have a multiplayer team. We might have a campaign team, a sandbox team. Those teams each have at least one champ. And depending on the size and complexity of the team, or simply just how many people are interested in being champs, some teams may have multiple individuals working as champs for their team. When that happens, we generally designate a lead champ. Lead champs take on additional roles and responsibilities, which I'll mention in a second, and help coordinate the rest of the champs on their team. This helps share the burden and maintain consistency across the different teams that have champs. But of course, if you are the only champ on a team, you are the lead champ. Now, these lead champs, they provide a connection between the teams and their champs to the gaming accessibility team. And then the gaming accessibility team, we provide status updates to our accessibility executive sponsor. So what are the roles of champs? What are the roles of champs leads? Well, first and foremost, whether you're a champ or a champ lead, you need to be evangelizing accessibility. The goal is to influence ongoing and future design and development work. This is done by having champs and champ leads share training, tools, best practices, but it also involves them learning and growing their knowledge bases by participating in training and participating in quarterly meetings where we all sync up and share knowledge and tips and tricks and technologies with one another. Now, champ leads, they have a few additional responsibilities. They sync monthly with our accessibility team. Let us know what's going on in their products. Let us know if they have any concerns, anything exciting to share. They recommend training agendas based on what their team needs to learn about so that our team can help drive documentation, and training development. Champ leads create and maintain bug and task dashboards, so it's easy to know where any given product or feature sits as it relates to accessibility. They also help us coordinate inclusive design sprints, which again, Tara will be talking about shortly. And they serve as a conduit for asks back to our accessibility team. They come to us and say, hey, our team really is struggling with X. And X might be a platform ask. X might be a documentation ask. X might be a problem with getting the appropriate level of leadership support. So that our accessibility team can then go back and help them drive those areas to success. So what makes up a good Champs program? Well, it's pretty simple. You need to have enough coverage across your studios, enough people in the right teams and in the right roles. You need to make sure you have regular communications amongst those champs, whether it's meetings, whether it's team chats, whether it's email threads and DLs, ensuring that everyone is sharing their struggles and their successes with one another. And finally, accountable champs. At Microsoft, we hold our champs accountable for ensuring that they are delivering value. This is actually part of their job descriptions. It's added to their job descriptions. On our quarterly success metrics as employees, this is added to our, we call them reviews, to our reviews. And that ensures that these individuals are not only delivering the value that we seek, but it also ensures that they're rewarded and given time available to work on those areas. Because again, their managers have signed off. It's part of their commitments. So a quick reminder, allies are precious, okay? Don't squander them, don't neglect them. Once you've built your allies, make sure you set them up for success. Give them the tools and resources they need. Create shared lists of allies so that people can easily find one another to collaborate. Speaking of collaboration, create collaboration spaces, team events, MS Team websites, SharePoint sites, whatever you use. Documentation. Make sure that your team and your allies have the resources that they need to deliver the results that you want them to deliver. You know, as champs, we get a lot of questions. As allies, we get a lot of questions about accessibility. And it can eat up a lot of time. Provide information that people can easily share out so they don't have to keep reinventing the wheel over and over again. Collect tools. Tools for checking color contrast, for checking text size and the like. Tools for documenting accessibility. Tools for checking websites for accessibility. Whatever tools you use, put them in a single space so people can easily find and use them. Help your allies create bug and feature backlogs so that people understand where their products sit in relation to accessibility. And finally, help foster community connections. Help your allies create feedback loops with the gaming disability community. Whether it's on social media, forums, or on Twitter, those connections are absolutely essential to growing your allies and improving your products. Because as the disability and gaming community says, nothing about us without us. So in conclusion, it is dangerous to go alone. No one person should be the accessibility person on the team. Inclusive design is most effective when it's a natural part of everyone's thought process and infused in all stages of product development from end to end. So with that, I'll say thank you, and go out there and make some new accessibility buddies. Thank you.